It has been 4 months I haven't recorded and posted a video. And I'm definitely not proud of that. Excuses, I could have plenty. Everybody does. Life's pretty challenging, especially when no one's watching you and you have to put food on the table. Besides, we're being bombarded every day by information. And I know this talk might get old, but in fact, it doesn't. It's all these are distractions that make the mind cloudy and less able to stay on the path and really develop the necessary line of thinking, build the ideas, the theses that are deep and hopefully useful. It's when we stop to think and when we pause and think in this manner, it's like the mind going into another frequency. It just feels healthy, believe me. I miss a lot having these types of conversations, but they're becoming more rare. Being at the coffee shop, at the tea shop, being at the porch, and allowing that slow form conversation with someone that also has a history, has experience, and is there willing to pause the time and flow. On the other hand, we have amazing minds, these people who are thriving and speaking magnificently on YouTube and other platforms, and it's like the gap is just increasing. People who know how to think, know how to talk, compared to the ones who don't. And many times it's not talent, it is practice. I can tell. That's why I feel pretty rusty today. The shame itself is not helpful, and it feeds a negative cycle of feeling shame and avoiding coming back by creating much expectation on yourself. For me now is the ability to start from scratch. Not only putting my face on the camera and recording videos, trying to be the most truthful that I can, that I'm able to at the moment, but also in other areas of life. We're making big transitions and approaching 40 years old. And the theme today is this: detachment. This was not planned, but that's how we got here. I mean, the intro. And detachment. The athlete athlete compromise many elements of his material life, or at least is willing to. The athlete has a high propension to take risk. And therefore, could we conclude that the athlete is overall is a detached person? And well, I have some stories about myself. First with girlfriends, then with school career, university. But the conclusion is that there are other things that the athlete can be very attached to, and it could be the Achilles heels, the Achilles heel of the one who practice and live on sports. And even though he could be less attached to material things overall and more propense to take risk, shame and guilt are extremely hard to deal. Shame and guilt. For certain reason, this type of profile of person who engage in competitive sports and is willing to many times give their own lives for a result, for a championship, have extremely difficulty in dealing with shame and guilt. It's very common that a competitor loses a game, a fight, a championship, and at that moment would rather die, rather pass away than have to live with that defeat. So therefore, you could say that the athlete is less attached to life itself, to the material world, but that doesn't make of him less attached. There are monks and sadhus, these people who live on the mountains with absolutely nothing, the extreme minimalists. Meditators and yogins, and they're in India they're called sadhus. And there was in the Rose book, a book by the Rose, one story where the sadhu enter certain place, and he goes to the village, and someone sees him with nothing. I don't remember if it was the Rose himself, or if it was someone else that goes and compliment the sadhu, like, oh, you absolutely got rid of nothing. You got rid of everything. You own nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the sadhu answered, no, you're detached. No, I still have my ego. I am attached to my ego. So these elements, less material, they also work as attachment. And we won't have, for practical purpose, it's more subtle, but it's still the same feeling. A positive model I found of someone who managed manage well this type of inevitable situation is Roger Federer. When he's asked about his rival, upcoming rival, Rafael Nadal. Let's say Federer on his prime, number one in the world. Nadal coming up, teenager, but very promising tennis player. So Federer answers about Nadal. Very impressive, isn't it? He's already bigger than me and has 5 years less, is 5 years younger. Federer didn't have the attachment to the number one ranking. He had intention, he didn't have attachment. And this is powerful and rare. So he appreciated the company of other great tennis players at the highest level along with himself. You can add up his artistic vision of the game and his sense of evolution of tennis, understanding that the blend and the interaction of different styles would make the game better forever. This is a highly conscious thinking. He mentions it is good for tennis that there are these different types of guys and players, but at 18, 19, I wasn't like that. I think it's also good that Nadal is a lefty. We don't have many more great left hand players. So considering the intention without attachment concept I learned from Professor Arthur Brooks, Harvard professor, Federer would be an impeccable example in the application of such a concept. He has navigated for a long and winning career, experiencing and appreciating the moments, showing not to attach to certain aspects of the game in on court and off court. For example, the four idols of Tomás de Aquino: money, power, fame, and pleasures. That's where so many champions succumb, especially when they become celebrities. Haven't been there, but that's something else you have to deal after. Once you become like a great champion, in your reaches beyond sports. But Federer dealt very well with it. And I take him as best balanced example I could find. In regards to that, there's also the case of Jordan, where this is I'm not talking about the whole Jordan career in regards to this theme, but certain episode where he basically essentially owns the game in the 90s. He's already 3-time champion, and he lets it go. He lets the game go to try to play baseball, doing the same, applying a level of detachment then, at least towards that element in conversation that he was able to do in so many clutch shots, playoff games, decisive moments where you gotta be detached of the result. But the attachment to the result, it is a subject for its own video.